Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dreamloop's first podcast. We are sitting in a room with. My name is Matthias. Then we have Kimmo, Ville,
Hello.
and Tommy.
Hello.
So this week, Awesome Games Done Quick 2018 is going on. As of the recording day, it's Tuesday now, and we have seen so far, at least I think, some really hilarious runs in there, and we're going to talk about some of the things that we've seen. And I have to say right off the bat that the Skyrim run was pure comedy. I've never seen anything like that done to that degree in any Bethesda game. Something along those lines was done in Fallout New Vegas. I've seen a run that uses a similar kind of they somehow fly high into the air and they do stuff like that. But that Skyrim run was something totally different. I think they put their horse on the slope, and then they somehow glitched off of it, or
they load a game where they are on that horse and then get off of it and then load another game or something like that. It somehow carries over. But there's this lovely engine and the things it likes to do with physics, basically.
Yeah, and then they start running in the sky with the running animation, going really fast, and it looks just hilarious.
I haven't watched it yet, but so was this intended or accidental?
It was intended.
Okay. So it's now the run revolves around this sort of glitch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There were also unintended things in that speedrun, which also made it very good, but there were...
Yeah.
That particular thing was intended.
Yeah, towards the end, where they're fighting Alduin on top of the mountain, not in the end Valhalla place, but in the top of the mountain, they had a real little problem that they almost died. Actually, they did die a couple of times to Alduin, and then they had to use God mode just to keep the thing going on. But it was still really hype because right after they defeated Alduin, and they were supposed to use the Dragon Rend shout for something, and then they got the wrong dragon. They actually caught Parthurnax. So it was a chaos. I couldn't even figure out what was going on.
And then I fell off the cliff and what is going on? Even which dragon is that? And
I need to watch this. I haven't really watched any of the runs yet. Just that we have had the runs going on TV in the office. Just that, but.
So
I'm waiting for some other
have any of you watched any runs so far, intensively watching?
Not this year, no. All the best ones come when we're asleep. So since it's a working week, it's really hard to keep yourself up, knowing that you will be tired the next day.
Yeah.
But I'm sure to watch the Metal Gear 1 and 3 speedruns when I get the chance.
Yeah.
Those are always enjoyable. I'm not sure if this year there was the if they did sing the Metal Gear 3 theme while they climbed the steps.
I think they did. At least
Yes.
At least the Speedrun subreddit was having a lot of friends about that one very well. I didn't watch that yet either. I need to watch that.
Well, then I'm happy.
I remember seeing an incentive for the runner to sing the song.
Yeah, I don't think that was Matt.
It was Matt, yeah. Because I remember I fell asleep listening just to the stream, and then at some point I woke up to her singing the Snake Eater song. It was actually it was a really nice performance. Maybe some little errors maybe somewhere, but overall it was really good.
So did you wake up when it started? What a thrill!
That would have been so epic to wake up to that. What a thrill! And eyes open, wow. Yeah. So, what else is gonna happen in the?
At the moment of recording, Gargoyles is on the Genesis game. There's gonna be 2 Castlevanias, Fire Emblem and Metroid. And then Super Mario 3D World.
Oh yeah. And then on the Wednesday side, actually on the Wednesday the first is Half-Life Opposite Force. I've seen it before. At least
Wednesday for us.
Wednesday for us, yes, because we live here in Europe. And I've seen a run of that game, and it was pretty crazy. And I think I'll maybe not. It's like midnight here in Finland, but maybe the next day I'll watch that one.
Original Source Engine games are super crazy with all the body hopping and all.
Yeah.
And they're also super optimized, so those are usually.
There's that one in the original Half-Life campaign. There's this one moment where you can actually like get almost invulnerability by using you somehow lodge yourself inside a door or something, and I can't remember the exact thing, but there was an enemy soldier involved and him maybe throwing a grenade.
Yeah, no, I think it was somehow that they like. I remember the same thing, and I might be completely wrong, but if I remember correctly, it was something to do with that specific. Normally doors kill you, but that specific door has like an invalid value in how much damage it causes, so it ends up overflowing your health and healing you instead.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Incredible things. How do they find them? I don't know.
The amount of time that's been used.
Yeah. And testing all things. And I guess there's specific people often who are like kind of like find these things for different games.
I wonder if there's like a deep throat from the QA department who tells these.
But of course also
later on.
In a specific type of a game from a specific era, you can kind of if you know one game, there are things you then know to try in other games too.
Yeah, of course.
And for example, like if you know one Bethesda game, you usually there's a bunch of stuff you can figure out in others. And for example, recently one relatively recent one is because all games relatively recently started introducing the mechanic of you can pick up things. Kind of like they will float in the air.
Yeah.
So jumping on top of a thing that you are picking up, or picking up and jumping and picking up and jumping or something like that. That was in a lot of games for a while, for example. That's a relatively recent one.
And also, like in the same vein, you can probably, if you learn to speedrun a game that runs on the build engine, or the Doom engine, or Wolfenstein 3D engine, maybe you can then carry some of that tech and modify it to fit another game on the same engine.
Yep. But anyway, speedruns are usually very interesting to watch because they reveal these things, like from how games can break. It's always interesting to watch, for me at least.
Yeah.
And from a programming point of view, and also from a design point of view, one interesting thing is also that I like to look at from a design point of view is when players do things that they're not supposed to do because they want to go fast. Because sometimes that feels to me like a design fail state. For example, the damage boosting. The concept of where you run into an enemy to get, intentionally to get damaged, to get invulnerability frames, to, for example, jump on insta-kill spikes or whatever, or just to get pushed forwards a little bit. Even more common example is like having to, either skip a cutscene or do some convoluted action to skip a cutscene, stuff like that. And these are things where I wish more games, and this is something I would like to do in games I design, is try to figure out ways where people don't have to do that, where the fastest way and the intended way are kind of like the same.
Yeah, I can see where you're going. That's like you're trying to refine the design of the game so that you wouldn't have to use
at least when it doesn't matter. I know we're talking about Metal Gear Solid earlier, like that segment where you go up the ladder, of course it's intentional and it takes long. You wouldn't speed that up.
Yeah.
But for every cutscene, for every forced sequence, stuff like that, maybe you should think could this be faster too?
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of package from older eras, from NES games, stuff like that, where games were, for example, made artificially hard. That was what they initially did. Is games were really hard, and that's why you could justify the price because you kept having to try again and again, even though the game was short. And then I think after that, we start getting JRPGs. You start getting games where they have a lot of cutscenes, a lot of backtracking, a lot of fetch quest stuff like that, padding the duration like that. But these days, maybe that's not necessary anymore because I don't think how long a game is that good of a metric for value.
Now we have open world games.
Yeah, which have these issues too.
Yep. And there's also one speedrun that I really recommend you guys to watch, the Donkey Kong Country 1. Because I'm sure you've all seen how the game plays normally, but I had never seen glitches like that in DKC1. This time they were doing stuff like they were doing this arbitrary code execution stuff where they let me try to get this straight. they somehow they managed to get Diddy into a glitched state where the game thinks that they're still controlling Donkey, and they were able to manipulate the exit values of some doors so that they when they go through the door they end up somewhere other than where they were supposed to, and they were able to do things like they lift up some invisible objects and they control both of the Kongs at the same time, whereas normally you control one and the other just jumps and follows you, but they were actually controlling both of them at the same time, and it was just freaking crazy.
Usually the way that works is basically your pointer, so to speak, moves to an unexpected memory address, and then your inputs, instead of being like normally, it's supposed to be in this spot where it controls the character's movement, but now instead this input is going to a field that it contains a value for where this door goes, for example, or what item this is, or something like that. The most common one is to recode, so to speak, some sort of transition to jump to, for example, the end of the game or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's basically what they did or do in the runs of the old Pokemon like Red, Blue, and Yellow, where they allow the glitches. It's basically they just alter the memory and.
Or similarly, the Super Mario Bros. The Super Mario World one that a lot of people may have seen from Games of the Week, where they pick up these Koopa shells and stuff like that and put them to other locations, and then they just beat the game. Or in Ocarina of Time, any percent, where you basically, well, it's a little bit different, but basically you also just kind of jump to a completely different place in the game.
Yeah.
There are different ways of doing this, but.
Yeah, the wrong warps are pretty interesting because they get so under the game's hood, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So you start doing things that nobody who normally plays the game would find out.
And a lot of people from our generation would be familiar with Missing No and stuff like that from Pokemon games, which that is essentially writing and reading information from incorrect places. It's just, and I remember as a kid, I thought that it was like intentional, like it's a mystery that the game developers put there. I think as a kid I would have found it even cooler if I knew that it was not intended. It was just game going haywire essentially, in a way that happened to be sometimes beneficial because you could clone items or whatever. You could also completely wreck your game, of course, but.
Yeah, I remember feeling like, okay, this is just a cheat, so let's use
it. Like it's a cheat, Yeah, exactly.
And then it corrupts your save file, and then you're God damn it.
Yeah.
Stupid game.
So what else is on the list there?
There's so many good things here.
Silent Hill 1,
I remember there's, I think on Saturday or something, was Warcraft 3, which was quite...
It's only the human campaign though.
Okay, it's only that. But either way, it's a bit of a... it's different from a usual speedrun game.
I want to see the NES block. Like there's a bunch of classics there. Well, partially because our last New Year party was just us watching NES speedruns. That's basically what we ended up doing here at the office actually. But now there's a bunch of games we watched then, and now I can see how they are run now, because a bunch of those were old runs.
Also, there's TMNT 1.
Oh yeah, that's something I'm gonna watch.
Yeah.
I still remember playing that at a friend's place.
Yeah. I used to have that game as a kid, and man, it's really difficult. I don't think I ever completed it without using Game Genie.
This is the one I'm looking for. Environment.
Oh, that's... I didn't know. I didn't know they had that.
Yep.
What is 5-year relay category?
Since there's 4 runners, I'm guessing
they switch between after every winter, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Home Alone 2.
Yeah, Titanic. My friend was actually describing this to me. It's like some bootleg Titanic game, which is an action side scroller. And he was reading from Wikipedia what all the enemies are. There's bosses, all the bosses, there's a rich guy with a pistol and fat guy with a shotgun, and just but you play as characters from the movie and stuff like that. It is Titanic, but it's a complete fucking bootleg and crazy.
Dishonored, Prey, Duke Nukem 3D, Jedi Academy.
So that's a block I got out of catch, but it's super late. But that's on Friday, so.
It's on Thursday, Friday night.
Yeah, it's Thursday, Friday. Maybe I'll take Friday.
Yeah, I totally want to see Duke Nukem 3D. I'm not sure if that runner is the same as the last time I saw it, but there's some crazy glitches, like you can actually somehow jump under doors. Like, how the hell does that work? But it just looks so ridiculous when you're seeing him do that.
I
That
would,
it's
I would love to see the Ori and the Blind Forest, but I haven't played it yet, which I'm ashamed of.
That's the same reason why I didn't watch Hollow Knight, because I still want to play it.
Hyperlight Drifter, Code Build, that's gonna be probably quite fast. Jack and Daxter, the first one.
They did a Jack and Daxter earlier already though, didn't they?
the Ratchet and Clank.
Oh yeah, I always got those two mixed up. Yeah.
They're really similar. Actually, I
And
kind
the
of
names and everything.
yeah. They definitely formed their own kind of group, or I don't know what to call it. It's not a genre, but it's some. They have the same
But
aesthetic.
you also have like Banjo-Kazooie and stuff like that, but of course those are aesthetically completely different. But games where you have like the name is two characters.
Yeah.
And those Jack and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank like to refer to each other in the games a lot.
Yeah.
So both are first party Sony. At least back then they were both first party Sony studios. Kingdom Hearts.
I kind of really want to see that. That is on actual Friday.
Oh yeah.
Not that one, but I'm looking onwards. I also want to see Kingdom Hearts kinda, but I want to see the Ocarina of Time because apparently, Ocarina of Time is there every time, and people are kind of getting bored of it. But apparently, there's a bunch of new tech now in the 100% route, so I kind of want to see what all is new
It's
there.
actually on Saturday morning.
Yeah, exactly. So, kind of for me, it's gonna be Friday because I'm just gonna be up. But yeah.
Zone of the Enders, I would love to watch again, but I'm hoping to play the game actually myself at some point.
Kind of curious to see Baldur's Gate 2 because I played the fuck out of that game, but I don't think I've ever beaten it. I played it so much as a kid.
I want to see what kind of skips they do in Mass Effect to play it under 2 hours.
Baldur's Gate is also 26 minutes.
Yeah, they are gonna do some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a glitch there.
No, it might be.
Completely intended.
Also, Diablo 1,
Mhm.
because Diablo,
In the
first
first
Diablo.
instance.
Bloodborne, it's one interesting one. All bosses though, so.
I still can't watch that because I haven't completed.
Super Mario World without the cape and Star Wars, though it's a race. I'm not too big of a fan of the races.
If they are good, they are really good. But it's a little bit annoying because sometimes it's hard to figure out, especially because I don't usually watch these like super actively. I have them in a tab or whatever, and then I drop in. With races, sometimes it's hard to tell, like, especially if you don't know the game that well or you don't know the route that well, who's in the lead, which one is the sound coming from, and especially if when one is super far ahead. And it's essentially impossible for the others to catch up. They can still be entertaining, but
Yeah. Sometimes a really great drama happens.
Yeah.
Like I remember watching one Super Metroid run where one of the guys was in the lead, and then he drops it, and then one guy dies.
Super Metroid is super hardcore because it's such a difficult game. Like those races are quite. They don't have this time around, right?
Yeah,
there was Metroid 1, I guess, but not Super.
But they don't have Super Metroid.
Yeah.
So they don't have that option to kill.
I think it's the season for me to film a little video about me doing the Super Metroid crate quick kill, because that's the only speedrun thing I know how to do, but it's hype.
My problem with the races are that I like to listen to when the guys talk about when they're running, like how they break it and why does it break and everything. But with the race, they don't really have time for that.
They can have commentators who explain things, but also there it sometimes becomes a bit like schizophrenic watching experience, because they might start describing, some action taken by a person who I'm not currently watching. So I have to look at the different screen, and then I'm disoriented because I don't necessarily know where they are at the game.
Yeah.
And it becomes a little bit difficult to follow.
There's that. Yeah.
But I figure that if it's a game that you're really familiar with, then it's not going to be a problem. It's just going to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that they're stopping with Breath of the Wild, because from what I've heard and from what I understood, it's an open world game. It's not the most technical run. It's just a lot of walking around and stuff like that. But maybe there's been new developments and.
It's 4 hours.
It's gonna be a massive draw for people because it's such a popular game. So of course they're gonna have it.
And usually they've had like a Final Fantasy game or Mario RPG.
Some reload JRPGs.
So I guess they are.
Well, they have Final Fantasy 4 a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So.
So I guess the last game is usually not the most technical one.
I think last time it was Final Fantasy 7.
I think it was, yeah. And right now, they're playing A Link to the Past randomizer.
Oh yeah, yeah. Are they doing it like right now?
I don't know. No, sorry, I meant like right now, as in this year.
Yeah, this year, yes. Yeah, because I also want to watch that.
I was listening to some kind of broadcast of that earlier, and usually I don't like these kinds of modifications to classic games like that are quite that big, so that they randomize like the main items. But this one actually sounded quite interesting, and it sounds like they really have to learn to play the game in a different way. That they kind of take risks when they go to a certain place and see if they find or don't find some item that they're hoping for, and that changes the route, and they have to kind of know different backup strats if they don't get the item that they want.
Modern randomizers are super cool because they are not like random usually. They're like curated random, so to speak. Like they, for example, take some, say, Super Metroid randomizer, which I think is a rather popular one. It's programmed in a way where it will not create an unwinnable game.
Yeah.
Or same thing with Zelda games too. Like I watched a bunch of people play Legend of Zelda 2 randomizer, and for example, that one is built in a way where you will always have enough keys to open all the doors. You will always get all the items you need. Like it's not just random rolls. It knows what it has to produce, so it makes sense to do. Like it's still random, but it's not insane, and it's kind of like just a different game. And it's interesting because it's all the same mechanics, but it sort of shuffles them around. And for speedrunners, it's especially interesting because normally, you know, the game's route can be like, this is the route, this is how you do it. And for example, you never go to this place, and you never go to this place, you never use this item.
Yeah.
But when you have a randomizer in effect, you know, then you have to know the game even better because you have to know all these corner cases, all these weird things. And
I can respect that for Super Metroid, now that you mention it. Now, because I know that game quite well, I started thinking like what kind of interesting situations it could create.
It even has like water or lava can spawn in areas where there normally is none.
Oh, okay.
And stuff like that. It can do like really crazy things.
So they can randomize things other than the item.
Yeah. From what I
okay.
understand, it can be like really crazy.
Yeah. Did you watch the Super Metroid rotation?
No, I didn't. Oh yeah, that's another. I think the randomizer can do something like that too.
That would be super awesome. That they
upside down levels or
they rotated everything 90 degrees.
90 degrees, and then like for example, water is of course like still level, so it's like water is like on the normal. As if it would flow down and stuff like that. Because it's a ROM hack basically.
Yeah, and it's still curated, so you can still play through the game because they made sure that none of the rooms are impossible to complete, but they may seem really crazy. Yeah. So have you guys ever tried speedrunning any games?
Not really.
No, it's too competitive for me. I mean, you don't have to do it competitively, but then I just feel like, why would I? It's like, if I'm not good enough, then I'm just gonna enjoy the game the way it was made to be enjoyed, I guess. Though nowadays more and more games are being developed with the speedrunning in mind, so.
Yeah, I actually started learning how to speedrun Doom, the first one, and I always play with only keyboard because that's what I did when I was a kid, and now I just want to do it because I did it when I was a kid. And it's nostalgic, and I think that right now I'm actually better with only keyboard than just keyboard and mouse, and it's really hard. It's really hard, and you know you can't overstate that. I only know how to run the first 2 levels, and that takes a lot of time and so much repetition. And it's actually so intensive because you can restart the level so fast that you're always in this state of like let's go fast, and then I failed, restart, and then you try again and you fail and restart. You're in a constant flow and in this constant mood of running forward. And when you do that for an hour, you actually feel a little exhausted about all of that. So
It's very, very intense.
it is.
Yeah, I don't think I've really properly speedrun stuff. I've done a ton of Diablo 3, which of course the end game in Diablo 3 currently is kind of like speedrunning this difficult content, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, but it's kind of like you have to get to as difficult level as possible, and then within that level kind of you compete with other people how fast you do it kind of. So it sort of has that. And then I learned some tricks for Borderlands 2 because I played so much of it. And I think since then, because Borderlands 2 was, I think that was one of the games where me and my friends, we kind of organically figured out grenade jumping. Like, we kind of knew it was a thing, but we didn't really pick it up from anywhere. We figured out that one boss could be cheesed by grenade jumping, stuff like that. And then I started watching speedruns, and as we played that game, like, because we like to, hey, let's do a new playthrough of Borderlands. We started incorporating these skips and glitches into it, and nothing too competitive, but like, because it's, for example, a game where going fast is quite fun. So it's
Actually, one deep question. Do you think that speedrunning and making games speedrunnable can coexist? Do you think that the entertainment and the depth of speedrunning and what it means to the community hinges on the fact that the game is just made as it is without speedrunning being thought about? Or
I mean, there is a quite clear answer to that, because there's a bunch of games like I Wanna Be the Guy and all the derivatives from that, for example, which is specifically built for, if not speedrunning, at least challenge running. And there's a bunch of games that are built for speedrunning specifically too. Now, of course, it depends what type of speedrunning, like what are you looking to do. But I think the most common understanding is that approaching a speedrun is approaching a game as a series of increasingly, or series of, in general, difficult things you have to do as fast as possible. Usually mechanically difficult, but also often, you have to do decisions really quickly, you have to make the right decision, execution heavy. And I think games like that are always going to be popular. And like, I think it doesn't matter whether that difficulty is intended by the developer or not. Of course, in general, games where it's not intended tend to be more interesting, because it's actually quite unlikely, I think, for a developer to be the best in the world in the game they make. So it's hard to make mechanics that are too hard for you to execute, so to speak.
Yeah.
So in that sense, but I think it's still an interesting challenge. I think that you could do, you can imagine this is something somebody could do. I couldn't, but I will make it possible. I think it's possible to. I don't think the game will not become a worse speed game if the developers actively make it so, as long as they're smart about it, at least.
Yeah. In some games there's the speedrun mode included. I don't know exactly what that means because I haven't played those games myself. But as far as I understand speedrunning, it always involves things like how to get past all the menus as fast as you can, and like managing all the cursor movements in every possible situation. And then if you include a speedrun mode in a game, to me it implies that speedrunning only begins when you start this mode, and that somehow that it's more of a caged-in thing.
It depends. Like, one thing I've been thinking, for example, that we might even add to STW and a DLC or in the patch is just an in-game timer that, for example, skips load screens. Because that's just a fair thing, because then you are not software locked anymore, at least as badly. It doesn't matter if your games are necessary or not. Because it will, basically if you make a built-in timer that removes all the things that are not based on your skill, so to speak, like that would be one thing.
Yeah.
Or the thing that auto skips cutscenes where you have no input. Like, I think I agree with you that if it gets to a point where you simplify or remove menus or something like that, then it becomes a different game, so to speak. But if it just removes, sections that you don't do anything in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Though I guess it depends on the game, but what I remember, I can't remember which game it was, but that speedrun mode made it so it was mostly just an UI thing. It showed you your actual time, how long you have been playing, and then I guess it stopped the timer anytime you entered the main menu or there was a cutscene or anything. So it was basically just an UI thing. in that game. I just can't
Yeah.
remember for the life of me what game it was.
Yeah.
I think that's a common implementation, for example, yeah. And of course, it also depends on what type of a game it is. Like, because some games are just ones where it doesn't make any. Like, if you're making, say, I don't know, classic JRPG, then it's like speedrunners are not very close to your primary audience, so to speak. But then there's other games, such as some platformers, for example, that are very skill intensive and intend to be played fast anyway. Like, there it makes sense to cater to that audience. Stuff like that. Of course, like you could implement a speedrunning mode to a JRPG too, but it's just it's gonna be quite few people who will find that useful probably.
Then it becomes half-minute hero.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Even though half-minute hero, well, yeah, I guess that could be speedrun, I guess, yeah.
But yeah, at least for me, a lot of the charm of speedrunning comes from the fact that the game kind of is not really intended for speedrunning. Of course, there's a spectrum there. It's not like set in stone, but there's something about finding tech for games that are really slow.
I think that could work too if the game was just ridiculously, complicated. Because it's a discovery. It doesn't matter whether the things you discover were intentionally made or not. It just tends to be that if they were intentionally made, it won't take people very long to find them. But I think it would be a really, really cool design challenge too. And I think something like this has been done in very niche games. It's games where you intentionally have to glitch the game, for example, or breaking it and doing really weird things. It's an intended mechanic, so to speak. And you can kind of see that, for example, in really long games with open world elements, for example, stuff. Or Bethesda games, even though if Bethesda games were not so ridiculously broken within their physics, or if they were, but not with massive skips, so to speak. For example, those could be ones where you can find a very specific way to go from point A to point B. Imagine a Bethesda game without fast travel, without all the save loading stuff, and without all the I can jump to the sky and fly everywhere aspects. And that could be one where there could be a lot to discover, even though a lot of it wouldn't necessarily be broken things. It's just, okay, this is a faster route to go, and
of course, yeah.
You get the traveling salesman problem, so to speak, which is you have a certain amount of places you have to go, but what is the shortest route? Which for background is a notoriously difficult programming challenge to actually figure out what the shortest route is if you have a bunch of cities. But anyway, I guess that's a lot of discussion about speedrunning and a bunch of other stuff. This has been our kind of first attempt to doing this podcast type of a thing. That's how much stuff we have 40 minutes or something of stuff now.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. So we'll probably continue doing stuff like this in the future, alongside our vlogs and all that.
We have quite many subjects to really open up. At least I have in the back of my mind that I kind of wanted to convey into a podcast format, because we tend to really go in depth with some of our subjects and topics, and it's gonna be interesting.
Like this time we were supposed to talk about at least a few subjects, but for some reason we only talked about speedrunning.
But I think now it's kind of like with these ones it's more intended, and that's something you can let us know in the comments and stuff like that. Is how do you feel about this format, and what do you think we should, is this a nice length? Could we even go, longer or whatever, stuff like that? Because because these ones are supposed to be more just listen to us ramble type of things. And of course there's probably going to be interesting things here and there, but we're not going to worry too much about editing and staying on topic. Not that we are very good at that in our vlogs either, but here even less so. This is the point. Yeah, so that's about it. So thanks for listening, and see you/hear you next week.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.